Your immersive experience has been hijacked. It is highly recommended that you disconnect.
Welcome to today's immersive experience. And on the Immersive Experience podcast today, we are beyond thrilled to have with us Chris Foster, an acclaimed poet and spoken word artist whose work has touched the hearts and minds of many. From a young age, Chris has nurtured a profound love for art and creativity, channeling his passion into powerful poetry that resonates deeply with his audience. Chris's Chris's poetry has been featured in esteemed literary magazines, including issues number 2 of the GGP Collective in 2002 and the Prairie Review magazine in 2024. His dedication to the craft is evident in his numerous of published poetry books available on his website at poetryroots.online, and that's poetry roots with a Z on the end. Through his creative writing, Chris offers profound insights and reflection on life, inner peace, and the human experience. Today, we are excited to delve into Chris's journey, exploring the iterations behind his powerful words and the impact of his work on the literary world. Join us as we uncover the stories and emotions that drive his artistry and discover what makes his poetry so compelling. Chris, I am excited to have you today, and what he's going to do for us now is he's going to go ahead and start us off with one of his pieces, and I'm going to give him the stage. Welcome, Chris Foster, and we'll be talking about the roots of poetry today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be on your show. I'm going to be reading one of my poems. It's called I Am Poetry. I am poetry. I am the essence of expression, the embodiment of my creative style of writing. I am the pain, joy, and beauty of all the ups and downs I have experienced throughout my life. I am the spoken words I write. I am the spoken words I live. I am poetry. I am the seed, the water, and light that helps my poetry grow. I am the creative vessel that houses this poetic soul. Yes, I'm poetry. Every poem is like fruit produced on the branches of personality. Behold, the roots that run deep, purifying toxic impurities of modern society. I am poetry.
Good. I love that. I love that. But I've heard another one of your pieces as well. So I really like that one, the I am poetry, and it plays right into the theme of today. So I like how you compared yourself to the roots of poetry. So I like that. And I'm grateful that you've decided to come and talk with us today, and we have a lot to talk about. We're going to cover a lot. Chris, before we get into anything, I would like for you to share your websites and some of your products with us because I do know that you have clothing, you make clothes as well. There's one word that I remember from you, and that's poetrified. Would you go ahead and give us a little background on your clothing line and the products that you do have and some of the books that you're selling as well?
Yes, I sell most all of my merch and books and stuff is under my Poetry Roots brand. And let me get into the brand. So Poetry Roots is my poetry brand, and it's a brand that promotes creative expression in its purest form, from writing, learning, content creation, fashion, and community building. Poetry Roots' mission is to give a voice to the voiceless, uplift all who interact with Poetry Roots, and inspire individuals to become the greatest version of themselves. The vision of Poetry Roots is to create a community for people to discover their inner poet and feel safe expressing themselves in a judgment free zone.
I like that. That's beautiful. I don't think that, you know what I was saying the other day is that a lot of things that we do not, they don't feed the soul. A lot of things are very superficial, so it's hard to find something that is genuine and diversified enough to give us something that is authentic. How do you think that your clothing line brings authenticity to art?
That's interesting that you said that because to answer your question, my Poetry Roots brand is made up of three elements of poetry. And the three elements of poetry are the spoken word, the written word, and the roots of creativity. Um, I'll say it one more time. It's the spoken word, the written word, and the roots of creativity. The spoken word is, the art of, just performing your poetry on stage, and, just sharing your poetry, using your voice as a instrument to express your poetry. The written word is just a literary form of writing poetry and putting your ideas and emotions on paper. And the roots of creativity is just the overall creative expression and taking, your craft to the next level. Um, and, just expressing, your authenticity, because everything starts from within. So that's why
Mhm.
I created Poetry Roots, because I want to. I was watching, other poets, and seeing how they perform, and I know that there's some poets who do have their own brand, but I was asking myself, how do I stand out from all these other poets? Because some poets are slam poets. Some poets, they go on tour around the country, kind of like how rappers and R&B artists do. They share their poetry in different states. They go to different poetry slams. They do
Yes.
like poetry battles, like rap battles for rappers, but for poets. Um,
Mhm.
they do open mics, and I do open mics too. I used to do in-person open mics, but because of the way the world has become in the last few years, I do mostly just virtual open mics, and I do my own open mics on Instagram. So I just put the link in the chat for my clothing line and all my merch and stuff. And to follow me on Instagram, I'll put in my poetry link. One second. Oh, wait. That is original underscore poetry. You can find me on Instagram for all my merch and all my poetry content. So
Mm.
that's original underscore poetry, POETREE, like the word tree, like like a tree.
With roots that matches
Yes,
your, yes, I like that. Yes, absolutely. I like how cohesive everything you do it is. I think everything has like you have a certain organization to you that is to be appreciated.
yep. So I just put my link in the chat for my
That's
Instagram
great.
handle, and then the link for my merch, my website. So on my website, I have all kinds of like hats, T-shirts, hoodies, even my slogan, like "I am poetry." I put that on a T-shirt. I have it on like hoodies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I also do like abstract art too with my poetry on it.
Oh,
And
nice.
I remember my first poetry book that I wrote. It was called "Soul of My Words, Heart of My Mind." So let me write that in the chat too. Originally, the title was going to be my reality, but um I changed the name of the title because I know reality is subjective and it's not always set in stone and concrete. So I just changed the name to Soul of My Words, Heart of My Mind.
So when you write, you normally do you always take those types of nuances into perspective, like how people think or believe, or do you just write from what you know, how you feel?
I write from my personal experiences. I write from whatever I feel.
Hmm.
um I write from being inspired by other artists, other poets. I'll go on YouTube and look up other spoken word artists,
Hmm.
and see their performances, and then I'll get inspired from that.
Okay, I like
And I
that.
also I like listening to music, like hip hop, a little bit of R&B music, and there's a genre called Afro beats.
Yes. Hmm.
I listen to Afro beats too, and some meditation music. So all those things also help to inspire my poetry.
Oh, nice. Okay. And then, Chris, I would like to ask you, I know you're typing currently right now, but while you are typing, how long have you been writing poetry?
I wrote my first poem in 1995. it was for a class assignment. When I was in the first grade, I wrote my first poem. It was called "Footsteps Down the Hall," and like one of the verses was, "I hear footsteps down the hall. Some are big, some are small, but I don't remember the whole thing because that was a long time ago, and I lost the poetry piece." But
Mhm.
after that, like I just stopped writing because I didn't really take writing seriously. Years ago as a kid. Um, yeah, I was always into art and drawing and stuff, and then I went to art school, got my degree in graphic design, and I do freelance design work too. I do freelance graphic design. Um, I have a website for my freelance graphic design, so I'm gonna before I share that, I'm going to put in the chat the title of my first poetry book that I designed and written and published myself. So. Um, a backstory on my poetry book, my first poetry book. Excuse me. I wanted to publish it, so I was contacting and doing research for different publishing companies, but it just cost way too much money to work with the publishing company. So I went to this meetup group for like self-published authors, and I had a conversation with one of these authors, and they told me I can publish my own books on Amazon, and they gave me all the information to do it. So I went online and I published my first poetry book online. I was really proud of myself because I never did that before.
Mhm. Do you have anybody that is backing you, any family members, any support? What is your support system like?
No, I just the only person I just it's just usually just me that does all my poetry myself. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah.
Okay. Any any new projects that you're working on currently?
Yeah, so my latest poetry book is called The Journey of Poetry, and it just talks about, like the journey of a poet. All my most recent poetry poems that I wrote, and it just talks about the growth and development of writing poetry. And I'm just sharing like how my writing evolved from, just, my life experiences to like, different, everyday events and current events and being inspired by other, artists and yeah, like spending time in nature and just different things. Whatever comes to mind, that's what I will write about. Merging, graphic design and art and poetry all in one.
Okay. Can I ask you what has been one of the biggest challenges with this creative process for you, or just doing poetry in general, keeping momentum? What's been one of the biggest hindrances?
The biggest challenge is marketing my poetry books. Increasing the sales, um, getting more people to come to my workshops, just marketing all my merch and everything.
Okay,
Because I
great.
want to use it, as like a side hustle, not just working a regular job, but doing something I can enjoy. Because for a long time, I worked regular jobs, and I wasn't really satisfied with just working a regular job for a paycheck, working paycheck to paycheck. Um,
Right,
and I know that's something that everyone has to do, but I want more out. I wanted more out of my life. Like there was something inside that was telling me, was just screaming to get out and say, I want more out of my life than just a paycheck.
right. And so, what I would like to do, Chris, right now is I would like you to go ahead and, if you could, please read your second piece for us. I'm going ahead and exit myself out, and then we'll go ahead and listen to your second piece, and then I'll be back on, okay?
Okay.
All right. And hi to everybody who has joined us. Hello, Elizabeth. I do know I did see you in the chat. Hello. And then let me go ahead and get me out of here. I'm doing a lot. All right, Chris, go ahead. You have.
Okay. This poetry piece is called My Life is a Poem. It's a response to the first poetry piece I wrote called I Am Poetry. So this is I Am Poetry Part 2. From my childhood to adulthood, my spirit always wrestled with navigating the tumultuous torrent of others' thoughts and opinions, seeking to discover and hear my own voice. I pen my journey, my spirit, my home, a masterpiece, crafted in passion and strife. In each fading chapter, my life is a poem. Each day a stanza, each moment a line, ink of my heart and rhymes divine. With metaphors blooming in gardens of time, my soul finds its music, a vibrant rhyme. From my life is a poem, a legacy spun, a symphony woven until the day is done. For every lost moment, a lesson was learned. In the furnace of trials, my spirit was turned. For the world tried to clip my wings, and I still learned to fly. Teenage years spelled chaos, emotions untamed, pages marked by heartache, where innocence shamed. The ink grew more vivid, the essence of life. For every insult, criticism, wrongdoing I let slide, it always felt like part of my soul died. Adulthood arrived with burdens to bear. Time penned its chapters with wisdom and care. I pen my experiences with the poetry I share. Putting one foot in front of the other, I continue to move forward, even when my life may take me a few steps back. To be true to one's own poetry roots are beyond skin deep, my ethnic background, or demographical community where I sleep and rest my weary feet. There was a time where others, as well as myself, thought I was unable to speak. Then the seeds of poetries began to grow from the soil of adversity, branched out above the low level shrubs and weeds to embrace the light of the sun, a poetry that will never have to stand in another shadow, standing alone, tall and strong, but never alone. The quill of experience wrote lines steeped in grace. Each face found its place. My life is a poem, each experience a totem. So I write and I live in this infinite quest. For my life is a poem, imperfectly blessed. Like many of us men, we're taught not to cry, show weakness, or express emotion. Although we're still human, I'll let my tears flow through the ink of my pen. My life is a poem.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really like that one. I want to dissect some things if that's okay with you. So is this a direct correlation? This is a direct correlation to your life, is what we asked earlier, and you said that you write from your experience. Is Has your experience been that you did not know how to speak earlier on in life?
Yes,
Can you tell us
yes,
about that?
you know, being, quote unquote, introverted person, it's like you keep to yourself, don't really, say too much, and it's like you don't know how to relate to other people. So, it's just like you feel like you don't have a voice, and then society has a way of stigmatizing you and making you feel like you don't have a voice, and then believing like there's something wrong with you because you're not really expressing yourself. So that was the meaning behind um, the verse in my poem where I said, where is it? Um, there was a time where others, as well as myself, thought I was unable to speak. Then the seeds of poetries began to grow from the soil of adversity, branched out above the low level shrubs and trees, and weeds to embrace the light of the sun.
Yes, I like that. And I wanted to ask you, because while you were reading, one question that came to my mind was, where did your love for words come from?
It came from going to an open mic event one time, and I heard this poet do a performance talking about how they've been through so much in their life, and then they said that they're letting everybody know, I'm letting everybody go, and it's like, okay, that like really resonated with me.
Mm,
Um, and it did, what I like to call, I have this series of content on Instagram called Poetry Seeds of Wisdom. So what this poet did is that, like, they dropped a seed of wisdom, a poetry seed of wisdom within my spirit, and that's where my love of, writing and poetry came from.
mhm. Okay, I like that. Now, did you experience a lot of rejection in your life? Is this what made you turn to words? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, okay. I got that in that poem too. So, like I said, a lot your work. You are a very organized person. I love the way that you put ideals down, the thoughts down, the way that you write poetry, it's very easy to follow the story, the emotion, of what you're putting into it. So I really appreciate that about your poetry. It provides a lot of clarity, and the words that you use are really like it's kind of like, you know how people can, cuss words are emphasis for me, but you use bigger words as an emphasis for you. So to find a word that can to define something, and that's what made me want to ask you where your love of words came from, because I know when I write poetry, I can use very, very simple words and still convey a very deep meaning. But I love the way that you're able to use these, as Liz would say, these $10 words, and I am a $5 word girl. So I love that about, I love that about your poetry. I love to see words being used and used effectively, to because you are able to write and evoke an emotion out of people. And I've always stated that writing poetry has the ability to transform. Um, do you do you feel the same way?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Do
I
you
feel like poetry gives a voice to the voiceless. It allows you to heal yourself, and express yourself in a way where you would most likely feel judged in public, because when it comes to, like, being, introverted and, keeping to yourself, it's like, there's like a stigma behind it. Society does a good job with stigmatizing certain things, when, like, when you're different from people around you, society
Mhm.
will let you know that you're different, like you stand out, like you're, an outcast, all these different things. It's easy to kind of feel like you don't belong and fit into the world. So for most of my life, I felt like, I didn't really belong in this world. Like, I didn't really have um a solid group of friends or people I can really, feel connected to. So for me, poetry gives me that connection. When I can connect with other poets, that's where, I feel the most at peace.
Okay. Um, can I ask you, what does your typical writing routine look like?
Yeah, so my typical writing, actually, I don't really have a writing routine. It just comes to me
Okay.
naturally.
Absolutely.
I can be, it could be like 12, midnight, and I'll get up in the middle of the night and start writing poetry.
Just when it hit, you feel it. It's kind of like, oh, okay, this the vibe. Let me get it out.
Yes.
I understand that completely. As a writer, you must always keep pen and paper or somewhere to write something at, because the thoughts that come, they are very fleeting. Do you have, besides the guy that you saw at the spoken word night that inspired you, do you have any other inspirations that have inspired your poetry along the way? I know you.
Yes, music is a huge inspiration for me. Like, I would say, certain rappers that inspire me, like, I'd say like Cameron, Lil Wayne, who else? Eminem,
Mhm.
Tupac. He's a poet. Even DMX, like he inspires me as well. Like, their stories of how they grew up, and how they express themselves is really inspirational to me. So I usually add that into my, poetry piece, because I like the way, like, for example, like a rapper like Joel Santana. I don't know if you've ever heard his music, but he has a way of putting words together
Mhm.
that's like really, really cool.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think one person that I usually write after is Joyner Lucas. I love the way that his lyricism works. I like the way that he's able to put stories together. Like, so I definitely can understand from like a, I will say that from like an artistic perspective, like how you keep stating, like how you sit out and how nature inspires you, like all of the things that around you inspire you. I can honestly speak to that, and that has always been true for me. Um, good good afternoon, Denise. How are you? Well, good evening, girl. Good evening. But for me, that has always been true to me. Like somebody had asked the question the other day, what was a book that impacted, that changed your view of life? what was a book that changed your view, the way you viewed life the most? And I couldn't think of a book because I've read a lot of books, but the people that have impacted me the most have been the people that I've interacted with, or the people that I've gotten to see. Nature has been a really big teacher for me, just teaching me to sit still. And books, the only thing that books do for me these days is reiterate the things that I have lived or I have saw, but it also reiterates lessons for me in different ways. Do you find a lot of reiterations in the poetry that you write?
Yes, and to answer your question about, books, I would say the two books that are most influential to me would be a book
Hmm.
by there's a guy, I forgot his name, but it's a book called well, the one book that I really was really inspired by is a book called You Can't Hurt Me, and it's by a guy named David Goggins. Um,
Okay.
and his story, like he talks about like how he grew up, and he had like issues, family issues, um and like mental health issues, issues with like abuse and dealing with abusive family relatives and stuff. And then he was going like from place to place, and he felt like really insecure about who he was, like he wasn't smart enough, he didn't
Hmm.
fit in, he felt like just a failure all his life. And then he joined the army, and he went through this program called Hell Week. Um, and what that is like they go through this, all this, training to like train your mind and body to be able to, withstand certain conditions. And
Mm.
very few people in the Navy SEALs, because he was in the Navy SEALs, and he did this thing called, I was saying like Hell Week. It's like they spend a week training. Um, in the harshest conditions to like train their body and train their mind. I remember there was like one exercise that they did where they had to tie their hands behind their back and then tie their feet and their legs together, and they had like someone would push them into a pool, and they had to go swim under the onto the bottom of the pool to grab a key with their teeth, and then swim up
Mm.
to unlock their legs and their arms because they're tied together, so you can't really just reach down and grab the key. You have to like use your teeth or something he did to like free him, set yourself free. So it was really intense training. um
Mhm.
so yeah, he went through all these different trainings in the Navy SEALs, and then he went through like different issues, learning. But the only way for him to really learn, because he felt like he wasn't smart enough, he had to like
Mhm.
get a notebook and just write down everything, like fill up every page over and over again until he learned and understood things. And then he just had to challenge himself, mentally, like he had to put himself in the most uncomfortable situations to train himself and prove to himself that he is capable of learning, that he's a he can become the greatest version of himself, and not allow other people's opinions to like affect him, because like the title of his book is saying, like, you can't hurt me, because you know um you can't hurt me anyway, and you cannot hurt me any more than I can hurt myself. Like I've been through a way more, like he's saying, like he's been through a way more difficult things um in his life, and he's able to endure, endure pain, mental pain, physical pain. Like he's already been used to it, so there's nothing you can do. Like he's become, you know um hardened and resistant to pain from other people.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. And then you said you had two books, I believe.
Yeah, the other book that I read, trying to remember the name of it,
Okay.
because I have it. I read it a long time ago, but it's talking about like how to reprogram and recreate your life. Um, I forgot the name of the guy who wrote the book. The book is called, I forgot the title of the book too, but it's a book talking about how you can um just rewrite your life, and you can bend reality and like create whatever you want, and you don't have to follow society's rules when it comes to learning and developing yourself, and like challenging beliefs that you're taught growing up.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree with that. I don't know if you've I don't know if you've ever watched the episode of the immersive experience outside of interviews, but when we are not interviewing, one of our biggest things that we talk about here is self-development and just understanding that we must first go within to change everything that is without, that is outside of us, that exists outside of us. So what was some one of the biggest obstacles that you faced mentally walking over those barriers that book helped you that the first book that you mentioned, You Can't Hurt Me, how did that help you walk over any of the mental barriers that you were fighting at that time?
It just helped me to become, mentally resilient to all the things, that was, ever said about me, like dealing with difficult people and helping me understand that, I'm not the only one that's felt insecure about, certain things in my life and, that's just gone through all these different things. Like I'm not the only one, and that there is a way to deal with things without breaking down completely. I mean, sometimes it's okay to like break down in order to build yourself back up. Like he's saying, you have to break yourself down to build yourself back up. That's what he's saying.
Hmm. I like that. I definitely agree with that. So, Chris, I know you have another poem for us. So, I am going to exit myself off. I will let you get to number three, and I'll be back on with you all shortly.
Okay.
All right. The stage is yours.
All right. Let's see. Hmm. All right. Here's a poem. Angel of art, art angel. Like let's tango, unchained, no Django. I've been fighting demons all my life. It used to be me versus me, but now we're tight. I wake up with me, myself, and I, every day and night. Just a creative being, low key behind the scenes, head held high, searching for the light. Archangel artistry, poetry is my life. Holy matrimonial journey. Haters do not concern me. For the door they tried to knock down, revolved so they can't turn me. My poetry is creative currency. You have to earn me. Been through adversity's flames, and as if they couldn't burn me, my wings are too strong. You're self righteous, but you're wrong. I live my life like a freestyle, so ghostwrite your own song. I 8 ball, corner pockets while you're still playing ping pong. Politician, I'm a poetician. GTA, the kid's on a mission. The kid is so proficient. He's so persistent. With the cards on deck, a psychic couldn't predict it. They say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You can't wake 'em, shake 'em, and break 'em. They need a physician. Watch a master chef cook with no book kitchen. He stirs the pot with the flick of the wrist. Flavors collide, a culinary twist. Come make you a plate from city to city, state to state. The beef they say they got, it's not even a steak. I go flow for flow, bar for bar. When I collaborate, artists assimilate. I made the 3 elements of poetry. Come flow with me. Planting poetry seeds, come grow with me.
Hey, Chris. Hey, I like that one. Hey, I'm a big fan. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. All three of your pieces have been. It's like you got levels to this. So like your first one, you started off all she was all like nice and easy. You know how Tina Turner was like, we always do things nice and rough. Right now I'm gonna give you something nice and what she say? Nice and easy or something like that, she tell us. And yeah, you started us off like real nice and easy. And then like you show us the craftsmanship of how your rappers that you listen to, you say they influence your poetry. I can see it in that. I can definitely hear it in that poem. I like it. Definitely a poetrified moment for me. Thank you very much. Now that word, can you explain to us what that means? Because I seen it on a hoodie or a sweater, I believe that you sell on your website. Poetrified.
Yes, so poetrified means, well, for me, since I made up the word, it means
Absolutely.
to embrace, your craft. It means you become your craft, you live it. It's not just a hobby, it's a lifestyle.
An
It
embodiment.
is you, waking up, living your going about your life, in a poetic way, in a creative way. You're embracing the ups and the downs, and you put it all together. Whether you're into like journaling or talking to somebody on the phone, or like you become all those experiences become you know become who you are. You're embracing it, you're living it.
Poetrifies. Be poetrified so you don't have to go through imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Oh
Like,
yeah,
be
and I found
poetry.
the other book that I mentioned. That other book is called. It is called. Where is it? It's called The Code of the Extraordinary. The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. It's
Oh,
by
nice.
a. The author's name is Vishen Lakiani. I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna write it down. Actually,
In the
I'll put it.
chat.
I will put it in the chat. One second.
Yeah, you put it in the chat and we'll post it in the comments for you. Elizabeth has a question for you. She asks, "Have you ever had an epiphany for your poetry in an unexpected or unusual way?"
Um. Yes. So an epiphany from my poetry would be like, like the last poetry piece that I did. I just it's like I'm sleeping at night, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and just all these ideas come to my head.
Mm-hmm.
Um and then I just, I think, okay, well, this would be a really cool piece. So I write it down. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, I went through this situation, last week. So um let me put that in the poetry too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, okay, well, maybe I can, take my poetry to the next level, and, use it to help somebody when it comes to like things like mental health, because I'm a huge advocate of mental health and creative expression. So yeah, and I kind of feel like, there's not enough um, opportunities for poets. Like poets aren't really represented the way they're supposed to be represented.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think that they're far and few in between. But if you're a really big part of the poetry community, I feel like poetry used to be a big part of America, or just the history of America in general, or just history, all history, even in the history of niggerdom. Poetry has always been a big thing. You understand what I'm saying? You had Marcus Garvey, Alice Walker, you had the Toni Morrisons, you had Nikki Giovanni, you had so many James Baldwin, so many influential writers, poets. You don't have that these days. Why do you think that we've seen such a dwindle in those numbers?
Because it's all about like drill rapping is a lot more popular. Like rapping and freestyling. That's mostly that's more popular amongst the youth than actual poetry and spoken word.
Hmm. I can see that. But I think I think, listen to what you just spit. You understand what I'm saying? Any person to come behind you and think, when I read my poetry that's really that has that really rhythmic cadence to it, people be telling me like, "Oh no, girl, this is a rap. You could be rapping this." And that is how, this is the thing. So when you write poetry that is relatable, but not only is it relatable, it has substance for the soul as well, people gonna fall in anyways. What I do believe is it's a lot of people who have that mindset that, oh, nobody's listening to this, nobody's thinking about poetry. The thing is, what I'm learning is, when I first started my podcast, I probably got 100 views. I probably got 100 views in a week. You know what I'm saying? Like, but the ideal is, once you become very consistent in your craft, once you're consistent in what you do, once you become poetrified, poetry is who you are. No, nobody is going to be able to not meet the poetry that you are, because that is what poetrification is essentially, correct? You are
Yes.
poetry. You are walking poetry, literally. So everywhere that you go. So what I'm learning is that just to be the example, even in just talking, because a lot of times I have a hard time conveying myself via spoken word. But when I start writing stuff down, oh baby, you can't tell me nothing. Like I'm gonna eat you up. I got you. Like, but just just like regular conversation, it took me a while to learn how to convey myself on the spot. Freestyle was never my thing. What was always my thing was, oh, let me write it out real quick. I got you. I can make you something bomb as heck if you let me think about it for 10 seconds. And it never took me long to write anything out. It was just that I had to sit down and make my thoughts as cohesive as I wanted them to be when they came out of my mouth. So, because one thing I had to learn is that my mouth moves slower. My mouth moved faster than my mind did. And so I had to essentially catch my mind up to as fast as my mouth moved so that now I'm able to talk with. I even had to start watching all my uhs and my ums and like, and like, but no, I truly believe in the word that you have created because to be poetrified is something, to become something, to obtain the essence of something. If that is who you are, that is all that people are going to meet. So for you to be that, that is all that we are going to meet in essence, because that's who you are. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that word a lot. Like I like that word. So now when I rock the sweater, you gonna already know, like, oh no, she definitely know. I definitely know the poetry roots. I'm
Hmm.
deep in them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. I appreciate the brand and everything, all of those things. I want to ask you, what keeps you going after meeting rejection, even if you feel like you've met writer's block or people aren't listening or nobody's even when we think of, you have workshops as well, and I want to talk about that too. But even when we think of those things, what pushes you? What drives you when people don't show up for you in the capacity that they have the capacity to show up in?
Um, that's an easy question to answer. I mean, yeah, answer. So the answer is just my love of writing, my love of creativity. I'm a multifaceted person. Like I have many different interests. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a poet. I'm an author, self-published author. Let me correct myself. Um, yeah, I mean, just the love of creativity, creative expression. Even if nobody appreciates what I do, I'm gonna keep creating no matter what.
Because you appreciate what you do. So, and I think that's very important. I just had made a status earlier that I stated that we can see the good in everybody else, but we can't see the goodness in ourselves. So indeed, that everything that you have that is a gift that you give to the world, it is also a gift that you can utilize for yourself as well. So thank you for sharing your poetry with us. I think it is very necessary. You hit on a lot of deep points. You have very conscious poetry. I don't know if you know that, but your poetry is very conscious, and I know that with the ability you have to put words together. You spoke on poetry being healing. When is a time that poetry has healed you?
A time where poetry healed me.
Hmm.
So an interesting story was when it was during my college days. I was studying film production, and I just completed a video editing project for my video editing class. Actually, no, it was my video techniques class, and my professor had us like doing these critiques, whatever. And yeah, he critiqued my work and said, well, based on the way I edited the project, he said, well, this will never make TV, and that kind of made me feel some type of way. But it's like when you're studying some kind of like um creative subject, you have to go through these critiques or whatever for class projects, and I wasn't used to that because it's just like I just had a hard time dealing with feedback, and it just felt it just felt really personal to me, because when I create something I put my all into it.
Hmm. I like that. Okay, okay. Yes. I think that that is definitely important. Put your heart in your art, plaster for the world to see. Hence, therefore, do you see why I breathe? I followed a life force and found you. I have a poem that talks about this actually. So yeah, I resonate with a lot of I resonate with your poetry very heavily. I am I'm very spiritual, and your poetry has a very spiritual vibe to it for me. And that is how I know that your poetry has the ability to transform, simply because that is why I write poetry. I write poetry because it took poetry to heal me. It took poetry to help me understand me. Poetry was what molded me into wanting to know better words, wanting to know how to put the words together to form the correct sentences, all of those things. So I agree with how you answered that question. I don't think I'd ever get tired of posting or writing or saying something that I think is necessary, not just for other people, but for me as well. Because one thing that I've learned is even as I speak to everybody else, I'm also speaking to myself, because my subconscious doesn't know anybody but me. And writing helped me understand that. So Chris, I have one more question for you.
Okay.
And I wanted to know what is some advice that you would give some upcoming poets and artists, people who are having a hard time, or people who are just starting out?
I would tell them to join my beginners workshop for poets, for poetry writing. Number one. Number two, I would tell them, just write. Write whatever write about whatever comes to your mind. If nothing comes to your mind, then write about nothing coming to your mind. Nothing. That's a poetry title. When I write my poetry, I always put the title in mind. Like I always start all my poetry pieces with the title. For example, I have a poetry piece, called I Am Poetry. And then I write based off of, me being poetry. I put myself in the position of what it means to be a poem.
Mhm. I like that. How often can we join your workshops? How often do you host them? Are they in person? Are they online? How do we
They're
join them?
online. My poetry workshops are online, so I do them at least once a week. So I can always just post it on my Instagram page or on Facebook.
Mhm.
I can share the link to my Zoom call. I have a Zoom account, so I can just share the Zoom link, and then anybody can join.
Okay. I like that. Is there anything else that you would like to speak about with the people? Anything that we should touch on? Something that you want to speak on before we get to the another treat of poetry from you?
Yes, so there's many things I want to talk about. The first thing is I have three workshops that I'm working on. The first one is my beginners workshop, my beginners poetry workshop. And then there's the intermediate level poetry workshop. And then there's my how to write a poetry book workshop.
Hmm.
So my let me see, which one is it? I'm going to be doing my intermediate poetry workshop on November 5th, which is this coming Tuesday. And that's going to be the intermediate level. So it's like the second level to my beginners level writing workshop.
Hmm. All right. And you said you had a lot to talk about, so go ahead, take over the floor, Chris. Don't let me stop you. Go ahead. It's your show.
Yes. So for my intermediate poetry workshop, anyone who participates in my workshop will learn different types of poetry. They'll learn about how to overcome writer's block. They'll learn how to write a poem and discover their inner poet. So that is my Poetry Roots poetry writing workshop, intermediate level. It's going to be on Zoom. I will post the Zoom link. I'll share the Zoom link with you, Desi, and then you can share it. I'll put the flyer up on my Facebook page. And then I put my link to my Instagram page too. You can follow my Instagram handle at original underscore poetry. And that's where I post all my poetry content. As for poetry content, I have different. I do live streams, like open mics. I have a series of poetry content called poetic affirmations, and I read from these affirmation cards. Um, let me get my affirmation cards. One second. I'm gonna turn my camera off. One second.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Right, y'all. Hey, listen, I'm excited. Now y'all know poetry get me excited. I love art. I love poetry. I love somebody that's excited about poetry. Oh, okay, there you are.
Yes,
Go
so I
ahead.
have these affirmation cards, and I read from like these five categories. One of the categories is like mindset. The other one is emotions, relationships, self love, and yeah, mindfulness, self love. I forgot the other one, but I have this like five categories of these affirmation cards. Like it looks just like this. Oh wait,
Hmm.
oh it's kind of blurry. Yeah, it looks just like this. Oh, it's upside down.
Mindset. Yeah. Mindset. That's
Yeah.
better.
So they look like this, and then they have like their writing on the other side. Wait, let me just zoom in. There it is.
Mhm. Update your self beliefs.
Yeah, so I'll read those on my live streams. And I have like 12 or maybe like 18 episodes of my poetic affirmations. And then I have this other series of content I call Poetry Seeds of Wisdom. And this is where my graphic design skills come into play. I'll go on, and design these little posts about what poetry means, what poetry means to me, and for other artists, and just something really cool to look at, and um, it's uplifting, and it's relatable.
Yeah, I like that. All right. And your next points, any other talking points, any other things you wanted to let us know?
Yes, so I am working on my very own brand of eyeglasses for poets and artists.
Nice.
Um, I call the name of my brand of glasses is going to be called soul specs. So that's soul and then specs together. And I wrote this idea down early this morning. Let me just find it. Here it is. So my new the idea concept is it's an eyewear line of it's a line of eyewear for poetic glasses, and it's called Soul Specs. And the tagline is rhythm and sight. The product description is see the world through the eyes of poetry. Soul Specs transform ordinary vision into extraordinary perception. Each pair of our signature collection is crafted not just to correct sight, but to illuminate insight. Soul Specs are more than just eyewear; they're portals to perspective. Um, Enhance your vision.
Okay, I like that. Oh, you just got a whole little brand of you really is poetrified. I like it. Listen, no, you really do embody poetry. I see everything that has come from you has some form of I like I like your mental health awareness, and I do want to speak with you because that way you and I can come back and do a mental health awareness podcast or a panel or some sort of that nature. I would love to have you there if you're open to it, of course.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I have a lot of mental health poetry pieces.
Oh yes, absolutely. I would love that. And maybe we could collaborate with the guys over at Lost Boys. And because I know he does a lot of things for mental health awareness and stuff like that too. So maybe we'll have to take a time to do a collaboration like that one of these days. I do want to give you these last few minutes to go ahead and read your last piece for us. And I'll be back on with you. I am going to go ahead and give you the floor, and the stage is yours.
Okay. This poetry piece is called Roots and Wings. I am both the oak and the eagle, grounded and soaring, simultaneously existing in two states of being. My roots run deep into ancestral soil, drinking wisdom from those who came before. Their struggle water my growth. Their triumphs are the nutrients in my earth. But these roots, they aren't chains. They are launching pads disguised as anchors. See, every branch that reaches skyward is a testament to their foundation. I've learned to dance with the wind while keeping my core steady. Learning, learn to bend without breaking, to grow through concrete circumstances. Some days I'm all roots, digging deeper, questioning further, finding strength in stillness, power in patience. Other days I'm pure wings, breaking through comfort zones like dawn through darkness. Each failure a feather that teaches me how to catch the next current. The secret is this: you need both to become roots to remember where you're from, wings to reach where you're going, and in between heartbeats of fear and freedom, I've discovered something profound. The higher I fly, the deeper my roots grow. This is the paradox of personal growth. You must be firmly planted to truly take flight. So plant me in purpose, watch me split the sky. I am both the oak and the eagle. Finally, learning how to thrive.
I'm not gonna keep coming on here and I'm a fan. That's what I really need to That's probably what I'm really trying to get out, that I'm a fan. Let's just start there. I'm definitely. Yes, yes, yes. Because everything that you just read, like I said, a lot of your pieces make me think of my own pieces. There's one where I talk about truth and how my roots sunk deep into a lonely land where others built delusions. I was the demolition man. So like I love how much clarity you write with, how much truth you write with, because well, I guess maybe I could just see the truth of it. Somebody else that might be delusional might not get that. Cause people don't like looking at themselves, but you making people do some reflecting. I don't know. Like, listen, we
Yeah,
need to
that
get a
reminds
mirror
me.
for
Like
them.
one of my t-shirt. I designed a t-shirt that says "Face it or fix it." You can see it on my merch site. So I put the link on the in the chat. So I designed a t-shirt. It's just it's just a t-shirt that it has like a mirror like on it, and it says "Face it or fix it." So that's something I just
Yes.
wanted to. It's like something that I designed to just reflect how I'm dealing with my own issues.
All right. Well, if you can all see the website here, you make sure you go ahead and grab that link. Make sure you shop up with Boss Up Apparel, and that way, you could too. Don't just wear the apparel, y'all. You need to embody being poetrified. Don't be out here faking the funk now, cause he done already told y'all what it mean. Now we need to fall in line. Don't be Come on, writers. Be what you need to be. Chris, did you have any last words for the audience tonight?
Yes. So I want to share a little bit about my poetry roots brand. So I just want to create something that I can be proud of, something that I can pass down to the next generation that comes after myself. And create that generational wealth. Because that's not something that was modeled to me growing up. So I want to just create that for myself. Like I've always had like issues when it comes to like finding discovering what my purpose is, and knowing what I want to do with my life. And it's like growing up, like you're being taught all these different things. Like you're taught to just fall in line and be another robot. And I don't want to be a robot. I want to be something that's not a robot. An individual, not a robot. Just I want to have a sense of fulfillment. So that's the why I created Poetry Roots.
Thank you so much, Chris. I don't know if you know, but you have been a joy. I am delighted that you came on here and made this podcast possible tonight. I am so excited that you even spoke with us, shared your poetry with us, shared your life story with us. I know some things are not always I'm glad that you're comfortable enough and secure enough in who you are to share you with us. So I appreciate you for that. And I appreciate all of the products that you are putting out into the world to not only share your to keep pursuing your passion, but to also share it, to keep putting it out there. I love the resilience of you. You're a resilient young man. I feel like I like. I
Thank
don't know. You know one of those things that's like those weebles wobbles, but they don't fall down. You are the definition of that. It don't matter how many, take a licking and you keep on moving. Like that's what is it? Take a beating and you keep on. I don't know, but it's a saying. But I appreciate you, Chris, and I would love to have you on the podcast again, to talk to you. You all make sure you check out his workshop November the 5th for it's an intermediate workshop for poetry.
yes, writing poetry. Yes.
All right, so you make sure you check him out. We're gonna get that link posted for you all. I'll also share it on the Immersive Experience page, and you can also find it on my Desilu page as well. Chris, it has been a pleasure. Thank you all so much for tuning into the Immersive Experience tonight, and we will see you all Thursday night at 8 p.m. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks.